Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro, and welcome to Grandma Has ADHD. I'm a certified senior move manager and owner of Silver Linings Transitions, where I help people navigate life's big transitions. But here's the thing, I spent years helping families move through change while completely missing the pattern that was running through my own life. I'm the daughter of two ADHD parents, the mother of three ADHD children, and yep, I have ADHD too. For years, I didn't have the language or understanding for what that meant. But becoming an ADHD coach and specialist, that's been absolutely game changing. Not just for how I work with my clients, but for how I relate to my family and honestly, for how I understand myself. I even wrote a book about it called This Explains So Much. This podcast is for all of us who are discovering ADHD later in life. Each week, I bring you conversations with industry experts and people sharing their own ADHD journeys, real stories, real strategies, and often a little too much information. If you're loving what you're hearing, please share this podcast, leave us a review, and find me at jamishapiro.me. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Whether you're over 50 and just getting diagnosed, or you're recognizing patterns you've lived with your whole life, this is your space to navigate ADHD with others who get it. So grab your coffee and get comfortable and let's dive in. Quick update before we dive in. You've heard me talk about the Sparkler Society. It turns out running a full membership community was more than I could actually sustain right now. And if I'm going to teach you not to overload yourself, I'd better practice it too. So I scaled it back to Sparkler Circle, one live group coaching call a month, same spirit, way less overwhelm. If you want to learn more with no commitment, just grab a seat at jamishapiro.me. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Back to the show. Today's guest is someone who has been in the ADHD podcast world for a while now. And if you haven't found him yet, you're about to become a fan. William Curb is the host of Hacking Your ADHD, a podcast he launched in 2019 with a very clear mission: offer real, actionable strategies for people with ADHD and help knock down the misconceptions that follow this diagnosis around. He's built a genuinely supportive community around the show, and his approach is all about empowering people, not just explaining the problem, but actually giving you tools to work with it. William was diagnosed with ADHD in 2011, and his path before podcasting was very ADHD, spanning everything from real estate to managing a professional Frisbee team. He's a non-binary individual living in Washington State with his wife and two kids. And when he's not behind the mic, you'll find him playing ultimate Frisbee, building Lego sets, or deep in a board game with his family. I love having fellow ADHD podcasters on the show, though it is a bit intimidating, because you get it, and we love talking about it. So please welcome William Curb. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I haven't done that many other shows, and so it's always fun when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on this side and I get to do this part.
It is, and I loved being on your show, and I will kudos to you because when I came on, I got a nice little bump. So you've got a nice audience.
Yeah, my group is just fantastic that listens to the show. I'm always impressed with when I'm meeting people that are listeners, and they're just always kind, and I'm like, it's really love the fans.
So I've actually met you several times. I've heard you speak several times, and you were the very first person who I ever saw talk about using AI for clutter. So I want to give you props for that, because that's an amazing one. And I can't wait to hear some more hacks. But before we get into it, I'd like to share with everyone who is listening, although Will is non-binary, he is not a grandma, or they are not a grandma. By the way, Will, my oldest child is non-binary and also goes by Will. So
fun.
Very interesting. Yeah. So Will is not a grandma. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, I don't have not grandma or grandpa or whatever the non-binary term is for either.
Yeah, grandparent.
There you go. Sometimes I forget the most easy thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we're my brother doesn't want to call Will his niblet. That's
Yeah.
the niece nephew thing. But we're ADHDing, aren't we? As we go onto that squirrel tangent.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one to go down too, because there is such a large part of the community that identifies just as not whatever the uh, standard ideas that people have are, and they're like, yeah, I have my own ideas of what I want, and so it's easy to go down. And then it's also like, oh yeah, there's also so much to learn in this area too.
Right. Yeah. To your point, that's one of the things that I've learned as a result of my ADHD work and having a non-binary child is, our brains, we with ADHD, we think outside the box. So why should our gender be defined by check, here, right? I mean, it just sort of makes sense that you would have a higher incidence of trans and non-binary in the ADHD space.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is really easy to be like, with ADHD, you are forced to question so many other things where you're like, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about this the same way everyone else is. And then you come to like this, someone asks you a question about this and you're like, I don't know. And then you like kind of go down that rabbit hole and go, oh yeah, it's more complex than I originally thought.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that is a whole conversation. If there's anything you want to share, I'm happy to hear that. But I also wanted to explore with you your ADHD discovery, and then I always like to ask people if you were are you from your family of origin? Like, are your birth parents the ones that are still involved in your life?
Yeah, my parents have passed on already. So, um, but they both definitely had ADHD.
That's where I was going, because obviously, if you're not adopted, then because there's such a high heritability. So because we're really looking at aging and ADHD, and I always like to sort of find out about its impact, especially because most of us were raised with parents who had no idea that they had ADHD. So first, share, because you said you were diagnosed in 2011, so you obviously were not a little kid when you were diagnosed.
No, I was out of college, and I have 3 siblings, and all 3 of them were diagnosed before I was. Although when I was doing some of the paperwork for something recently, I was like, "Oh, I'll go look at this like bin I have from like elementary school like admission things." And there was a note in there that I should look into a ADHD diagnosis from there, and I was like, "Oh, we didn't do that one. It's too bad."
I've heard that a lot. I've heard of a lot of people who it could have been caught, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Do you think your life would have been different if it had been acknowledged? And
Yeah, absolutely. There would have been.
Yeah, sorry. Here I am.
Yeah, you. Yeah. Well, no, it's absolutely would be different. It's so many like turns in my life where I didn't know what I want, and I didn't know what I wanted at the time, and so I was kind of just like flailing. And I think a lot of that flailing came from not knowing that, oh, that's what's going on in my head. That's why it's so hard for me to do certain things, but other things come so easily. And so having that knowledge, I mean, I probably wouldn't be doing this right now. So, you know, a little bit of a blessing and a curse kind of thing, not having it early.
Sure. So that's one of the things, that I really address in my podcast, is that a lot of people who are coming to Grandma Has ADHD are, later in life, diagnosed and undiagnosed, but strongly suspect ADHD. And there is that, the grief, of I wish it had been caught, how my life had been different. And then the relief. And I don't know about you, but definitely I have those moments where I'm like, it wasn't just me. When I talk to someone with ADHD who struggles with the same things that I struggle with, I always thought it was just me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's 100% something that growing up being undiagnosed, it was always just like, oh, why am I like this? Like, why everyone else seems to have this together, because I obviously can't see their internals and they can't see mine. But it always was just like, man, I can't believe that this is so hard for me, and other people don't seem to be struggling with the same things, with especially in regards to like homework and making sure that I'm studying for tests, just sitting down to study and like doing what's in front of me
I
instead
get
of doodling or switching tasks all the time, or just doing something that's I don't even need to be doing.
it. Okay, so what would you say is the hardest thing for you about having ADHD?
For me, it probably revolves around clutter, and organization in general. Just like I have a decent looking background behind me where it's, things look like they're, it's fun putting stuff in place. The desk in front of me is chaos, just piles of paper and objects, and I, I'm I don't even know how it got like that because it was clean 2 days ago. Uh, and I think that's one of the hardest things for me is just being like, I if I want something to be organized, I really have to dedicate a system to it, and I can't just let up with that system. It has to keep going, because once I stop doing the system, it falls apart very quickly. And oftentimes with the ADHD, I don't want to keep up with that system that long. I'm like, oh, well, I've got this figured out. I can just wing it now. And I can't.
Right. So, yeah, so ADHD, our brains need a lot of stimulation. And so we want to be doing the thing that interests us. And for a lot of us, we don't want to be tackling clutter. By the way, I share the same issue, even though I am a professional organizer and downsizing, decluttering expert. My brain, it doesn't mean I've solved the problem. It just means I now understand it. And so one of the things that I recognize and why I know now that I have the piles is the out of sight, out of mind. I haven't figured out the system for me. I do have a filing system, and I generally have some folders and I put them in order. And I know that if it's on my desk, it can be put there. But that also requires that I have to stop doing this really interesting thing to, go back and put that thing. And sometimes I don't even know where to classify it, the decision of where does it even, like, what do I call this thing, right? And that's also a challenge. So that's a big challenge. I just wanted to acknowledge it. So I know that you've come up with a hack for that. Can you share it with our audience?
Yeah, well, so one, as we were talking about earlier with the AI, is a fun thing to do is to upload photos and being like, hey, this is a picture of a messy desk. What are some of the steps I can take to declutter it? And it can come up with quite a lengthy list of, like, especially if you like tailor your prompt a little bit more to be like, this is what I want as my final outcome kind of thing. Often I think that's just doing that step in itself, though, can often be enough to help me be like, oh, I know what I want now. And so I can kind of see where I want to get to it.
Mhm.
Because often I do find that's one of the biggest problems with ADHD as well, is that I don't actually know what I want. I know what the idea of what I want. And then when I go through the process of defining what I want, it's like, oh, okay, well, if I want these papers done like this, I just need to take the trash, and I need to take papers and the objects and just sort them into different piles. And then I don't really care how the papers are organized right now. And it's like, oh, well, then that space is clean now that I've done those steps. And I can get those instructions. If I can't come up with that, then yeah, the AI systems can help me get there.
Yeah, I had no idea until I became an ADHD coach how big a struggle decision making. I knew that it was a struggle for me. I didn't know that it was an ADHD thing, and how it does keep you paralyzed sometimes when you're just like, I just can't even to go, like, what restaurant to go to, or for me, even like planning a trip can
Hmm.
become overwhelming because there are too many. That's why I don't know about you, but I love a cruise because I just have to pick the dates that work for me, in my budget, and then everything else is sort of done. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, with the, I mean, yeah, trips are a great example of like just it's so overwhelming to think about. There's so many decisions to make, so many details to keep a track of. I mean, we mentioned neurodiversion where we talked last, and one of the funniest things for me there was uh, about a month before the trip, I was like, man, I am so glad I already took care of all my flight and hotels for this because this is going to be such a pain already to deal with because I'm like working on my presentation and doing all this stuff to get ahead. And then I'm like, I'm going to just check when those are. It's a really good thing I checked.
You see me nodding because I already know the punchline.
Yeah, I hadn't set them up at all. I just had thought I did. I like had thought about doing it, and then when my mental check, you've done it, and then I was just how did I do that? Like this is outside of my normal systems for planning things because normally I would have like a checklist that I'm like this has to get done before it actually gets checked off. Keeping it in my head did not work.
I was literally on an airplane where I was going to present about ADHD and aging, and I looked at my calendar to figure out what hotel and had not booked a reservation. So I now have a system. So I'm going to give you a hack, and then I want to hear some of your hacks. When I register for something, I immediately register for the flight, the hotel, and everything else I need to. And then I put all of the details in my calendar. I put the confirmation number, I put the address, I put like the dates that I've booked it, so that I know I can go to, and I label it as, and I use Google. I love Google now because you can search with your calendar, but I've learned that lesson the hard way too many times. I wish I could say it just happened once, and I learned my lesson. That's why when you started sharing, I'm like, I know where this is going.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when it happens again, the first thought is never very kind to myself, where it's just like, I can't believe I've done this to myself again. Uh, and I'm getting better about those automatic thoughts, negative thoughts, because it's like, I can't believe I've done this to myself again, but also it's very understandable with ADHD. And, then trying to be more like, okay, let's make sure that we really dial into our systems. Because so one of the ways I try to really work on this is having, I use a program called Notion to do a lot of organizing. And so I've set up templates that I can like load up for when I create a new trip. They'll be like, here's where I'm staying. Here's the flights I'm taking. It also has like room for like I'm doing a family trip. Where is my dog going to be? Like, are they boarding? Is it coming with us? Uh, and then also, like what are things around? Where do I want to eat? Where do I like, stuff I can fill in or don't need to. But the very basics at the beginning of like, where am I staying? How am I getting there? Is it booked?
That is amazing. And also terrifying. Like too many things that have to be scheduled also freaks me out. I'm going to share another hack with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I have been making a lot of these, ADHD taxes with these mistakes. And so now what I do, because I am also building a community for, women my age and older who are discovering ADHD. And so I turn it into a marketing opportunity. And I'm just like, I just paid $300 because I booked a flight on the wrong day. And that was the penalty. And so now I look at it as a marketing cost, which keeps me from beating myself up, and also, leaning into it. I mean, this is the reality of the brain that we were given. None of us chose to have it. It's what we got. And so I will say this, I'm very good. And it's one of my big messages. So I'm glad you brought it up about not beating myself up. I just am like, okay, well, this is the price I pay for the brain that I have that allows me to do this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is very easy to get into that headspace of I wish things were different, and it doesn't actually help because they aren't. I can't change a lot of these things. It's like, yeah, I wish this was all easy and I didn't have to set up these systems. But if I have set up the systems, it is easy. And while that doesn't give having an easy system doesn't give me as much dopamine as I like, I do prefer having an easy system.
Right. No, I agree with that. And okay, so keep in mind that you're significantly younger and clearly you like technology, but a
Mhm.
lot of people, ADHD or typical, who are, Gen X and older, struggle with technology, especially people with ADHD if it's not the thing that they're really interested in. So I would love to hear some hacks that might be more on the basic beginner level.
Well, so a lot of the same thing with the template, you can just scale down to whatever level you're at, where you're like, oh, you know, typed this up in a document on my computer and I can print it out each time and then fill it out by hand or whatever. I always find like, yeah, just because I actually really like a lot of analog things where I'm like physically holding the calendar or, uh, actually using sticky notes or a real checklist or something because it's easy for me to ignore stuff on my computer and get distracted by something else there because there's a lot of interesting things on my computer. And
Mhm.
so it's nice to have physical uh, objects to interact with, but have it do the same thing that I would do with a more digital version.
Mhm. So, any other hacks that you feel like, were just like great basic hacks for someone just coming into our world? I mean, your podcast is
Yeah.
Hacking Your ADHD, like,
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things for me on in the terms of hacks is figuring out the right way to do like not right way, but the sequence of how you might do something. So a really clear example for this for me was I had so much trouble remembering to reline my trash can after taking out the trash. It was a frustrating problem that actually had a very easy solution, which was to just reline it before taking out the trash. So take it out of the bin, reline it, then take it out to the big trash can outside. It, it, that prevented me from having a step where I could forget what I was doing. And there are a lot of places that we can apply that same kind of idea of like, oh, if I'm having a step where I am forgetting to do something, can I rearrange the steps so that I can just always remember where I'm doing this? Like having a place where you put your keys and that being the first thing you do when you get in the door, not the fifth thing.
right, right. I have another one for your trash, and something that I don't do now, but I used to do it, and I would have a couple extra bags that would go into the trash,
Yeah.
so that as soon as I pulled it out, I didn't have to go get one. It was right there.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Just sitting at the bottom, it's
Yep.
easy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, yeah, just having those little things makes a difference in like, oh, well, now I'm not having to, like, coming back an hour later and to throw something else out and be like, oh, now I need to reline this. And then that having that whole derailing of what I was doing as I'm relining this trash can and forgetting that, oh, yeah, I was bringing groceries in and I just happened to find this piece of trash that had been sitting. It's so easy to get yourself derailed. And so having systems in place so that you don't have those places where you forget things, it's amazing.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're going to take a pause because I like to use the commercial space for time to share what it is that I do to actually pay my bills, which is my business in San Diego. And we help, and I don't know if I was on your podcast, but this might be new people who haven't heard it. So we provide move management and home organizing services in San Diego and Coachella Valley. And we're called Silver Linings Transitions, and we're part of a national organization that provides the services in other cities too. And I like to say that, even though I don't make any money from it at all, because people with ADHD struggle with executive functioning. And one of the biggest, most challenging struggles is moving. And where do I begin and how do I do it? And so I always like to make sure that people know about NASM, NASMM.org. And of course, know that I am available to coach. So we're going to pause. But when we come back with William Kerb of Hacking Your ADHD, I'm going to have you answer 2 questions. So one of them is, I always ask my guest the button question, which is, if you could press a button and not have ADHD, would you press that button? I did steal that, by the way, from Penn Holderness at the 2024 conference. So I give him full credit. And I want to hear a little bit more about maybe being raised by ADHD parents and how it impacted you. So we are going to be right back with William Kerb. I used to dread visiting my mother. Because of the clutter, the piles, the chaos, we all experience clutter differently. For me, it was a source of anxiety and stress. I'd try to help and she'd get defensive. We were both frustrated and it was destroying our relationship. Then we discovered something that changed everything. My mother had ADHD and she'd been living with it undiagnosed for over 76 years. Suddenly, it all made sense. The clutter wasn't laziness. The disorganization wasn't a choice. Her brain was wired differently, and no amount of willpower or traditional organizing advice was ever going to work. That discovery became my life's work. It's why I started the Grandma Has ADHD podcast. It's why I became an ADHD coach and specialist. And it's why I am so passionate about helping women like my mother and maybe like you. Because here's what I know. Clutter affects us emotionally and physically. It damages relationships, it creates shame spirals, and the overwhelm of not knowing where to start keeps you frozen. But it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's brave. If you're in the San Diego or Coachella Valley area, my team at Silver Linings Transitions can come to your home. We'll help you tackle the clutter with compassion, not judgment. I also work with women virtually through one-on-one ADHD coaching. And if you are overwhelmed with clutter, I can connect you with trusted resources in your area. Visit jamishapiro.me to get started or grab my book, This Explains So Much, on Amazon. My mother and I got our relationship back. You can get your peace back too. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Moving can feel overwhelming, whether you're downsizing, relocating, or helping a loved one transition. There are so many decisions to make, details to handle, and emotions to navigate. At Silver Linings Transitions, we believe every move should be magical, not stressful. We're more than movers. We expertly guide you through the entire process and do our best to alleviate your concerns. From the moment we meet, you'll feel comfortable because we will listen to your needs and wants and work together to create a personalized plan that honors your memories and your cherished belongings while helping you embrace your next chapter. We visit your new space and create a detailed floor plan, ensuring your furniture and treasured belongings will fit safely. We handle the logistics so you don't need to worry about anything, from sorting and packing to coordinating the sale and donation of unwanted items. Our professional team uses efficient, eco-friendly bins and handles every detail with care. We coordinate with our vetted moving partners, oversee the logistics, and ensure nothing is left behind, even packing your refrigerator items. Here's where the magic happens. We don't just unpack. We recreate the feeling of home. Using photos from your previous space, we thoughtfully arrange your furniture, hang your pictures, and set up your kitchen and bathroom so everything feels familiar from day one. When you walk into your new space, it's not just moved in, it's home. Your coffee pot is ready, your favorite photos are perfectly placed, your bed is made, and your new chapter begins with comfort and joy instead of chaos. This is how Silver Linings Transitions makes moves magical. We handle the emotional lifting and the logistics so you can focus on what matters most, settling into your new home. because every move deserves a silver lining. Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro. I am an ADHD coach and the founder of Silver Linings Transitions, where we do home organizing and move management. And, I did not know that I had ADHD for years. And I remember personally hiring an organizing company to come in and help me because I could just never get it together. And it really wasn't until I understood ADHD and its impact that I realized why. And so I wrote a book, This Explains So Much, Understanding Undiagnosed ADHD, because I just feel like there's so many answers that people don't even know that they're looking for, especially generations of women who grew up thinking that ADHD was just for the hyperactive little boy. It turns out it's not only a body that can be hyperactive, but it can be a mind that's hyperactive. So you can have a wonderful day and you can have something wonderful happen, and then that one negative thing that happens is going to be the thing that takes you into that spiral, and it's going to be keeping you up at night, and you're going to be ruminating on it. And I think that, we as women carry so much shame and so much how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have it together. And I remember that was the case for me. I remember, how is it that all of these women have so much consistency and their kids get the sticker charts and everything seems to run well, and I'm the one that's missing parent-teacher conferences and my house, is always in chaos. And then again, that negative self-talk. So my mission is really to educate people who have no idea that ADHD has the impact that it does. And it's to connect you to other people who get it and who will make you feel that you aren't alone, you're not crazy, you're not lazy, you're not stupid, you're not too much. You just have a brain that was wired differently. And I can't wait for you to join me in the community that I'm building, the workshops that I'm creating, the book club that I'm hosting, because I know that I am going to make a profound difference in your life. So we are back. We just took a break. I'm joined by William Curb of Hacking Your ADHD. And if you are not watching us on YouTube and you're listening, he just gave a big wave, and he's got a really colorful, all sorts of stuff behind him, and a very color short, screaming ADHD, by the way. But we started talking about how neither one of us had eaten. And then I had suggested that a lot of times when I go, I forget to eat, or I just keep going. And so William agreed with me. And then I said, wait, we should share this conversation. So anyway, let's go back to that.
Yeah, so that was something that for a long time I really struggled with, making sure that I'd stop and eat in the middle of the day, because I didn't have the right hunger signals to tell me, like, oh yeah, you do this. So that is a very common thing with ADHD, where we have a lot of trouble with our interoception, which is like telling how we feel in our body. So it can be, can't tell if I'm thirsty or hungry. I know a lot of kids with ADHD really struggle with knowing if they have to use the bathroom, and that's all like our interoceptive awareness. So for me, my solution at the time was to just, I made sure that my calendar had lunch in it. I had to schedule that time and have a reminder pop up, go eat some food,
Mm-hmm.
And over a few years, I don't really need that as much anymore. Although I still do come up with that thing where I'll forget that I need to eat. And then I'll get to like 3 or 4 and I'm super grumpy and I'm hungry and I'm just eating the easiest junk food that's in my house, because I don't want to wait to eat. I want to eat right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I wonder, this is my thought on why I don't eat, is when I'm hyper focused, like when I am in the zone, nothing else, I don't pay attention to anything else.
Yeah.
And so I'm not noticing hunger cues. I don't want to be interrupted. Like that's why, the phone or something else, someone coming into the room when I just want to be doing what I want to be doing. And it is I didn't understand that transitions were so hard for people with ADHD. And when I say transitions, I mean like going from this thing that we're interested in to stopping so that we can do something else that somebody else needs us to do.
Yeah. And even something else I need me to do, like
Yeah.
eating. It's like, I
Okay.
don't want to do that. I want to do, this is what I'm doing. It's interesting. Food is, I do that every day. That's boring.
Right. Right. Well, it depends. Some of the food's pretty darn good, but
Yeah. But
but
some,
I was gonna say, I've even found that I oftentimes I make like a big thing of soup and then I freeze it into soup cubes
mhm,
because I don't even want to make a decision about what to eat. Like
yes. No, it's deciding what to eat, especially if you're not really feeling a hunger cue, can be really hard because you're like, am I really gonna, what am I gonna do to feed myself? So, I've learned that this is doing that kind of thing where you're like, I'm just eating to make sure that I have nutrition. It's called mechanical eating. And it's one of those things that some people with their poor interoception really kind of have to focus on doing because we just don't have the cues. We don't have the feelings. And even though we don't have that, we are going to feel it later just at a higher level where it's where it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I don't have to go to the bathroom. Oh, now it's painful.
right. I ended up with UTIs actually several times for that very reason when I was younger because I would ignore it and then it would bite me. But you know what? This is what I love about talking to somebody with ADHD because these are things that I would have never suspected had anything to do with ADHD, and I wouldn't have put all of these things together. But when I talk to someone like you and we're like, oh yeah, I can totally relate. It just there's so much comfort. I don't know if that's the right word, but
It is very much
validate.
where it feels like, and you get this like, is it all ADHD? And there's certain levels of it's there's a lot of things that ADHD affects, and of course it's also because ADHD is a developmental disorder that like, oh yeah, because I hit these milestones at different times in my life developmentally, then I am fundamentally a different person just because of how ADHD manifested with me.
Mhm. Yeah. So I liked the example at the neurodivergent conference, and I don't remember who the speaker was, but she did the image of the boy with one really, really developed bicep and one, very muscular and one very small. And she said that when you have ADHD, you tend to have like something that's like you could be incredibly bright, right? But then you might struggle
Mhm.
socially. So it's like that the balance. You can't have everything great. So that leads me to the button question, William. Would you press the button and not have ADHD?
It really depends on what that means. Every time I come up with this question, it's just like, yeah. So like we have like what I was just saying with like developmentally, like there are things that my life is fundamentally different because of ADHD, and so like yeah, getting here, I had to have ADHD to get to this point. Uh, and then as we're like, is it all ADHD? Like what's left underneath my perception? If I was fundamentally the same person and the only difference is I didn't have the symptoms of ADHD, I probably would push the button. If it meant that my personality changed or that there was some, you know, however I exist changes, I don't know if I would push it because kind of, as I've said, I've worked on the negative self talk quite a bit and I kind of like myself now. So it'd be kind of hard to be like, I just immediately would push the button if I don't know what exactly, because it's very hard to like tease out what is ADHD, what isn't, what is me.
Hmm. Hmm. I hear you. And your answer is pretty no one just says yes or no. There just seems to be no yes or no, again.
I've definitely seen online where people like, I don't have crippling ADHD. Like I can get,
Right.
and so I understand for the people that like their executive function, that is just crippling in their life. I'm like, I understand if there's nothing that comes from it that you want, and it is hard
My
to live.
will say that. My will say this is not that there's no blessing in this, where my youngest child, appreciates it.
Yeah, and I think there's yeah, I shy away from ever referring to ADHD as a superpower or a blessing or any of that, but I am well aware that the way I have ADHD works very well with my lifestyle and how I do things.
Hmm. Right.
Most of the time, there is clutter, there is all the other things that I have to deal with, and it is like, oh yeah, I have to a lot of other things I have to do, but I think that overall it makes me a more fun person that I enjoy being.
Right. So that leads me to the next question. I asked you what was the hardest part. What's the best part of your ADHD?
I find because I have so many interests that go around that I have knowledge in tons of different areas. And so when I go to make connecting ideas, it's super easy for me to be like, oh, yeah, I read about this in this paper about physics. And then that really applies here in this decluttering thing. And that actually goes together really well, like as a theory. And it's like, there's no reason that I should have these connections in my head other than because I have so many interests, ADHD made that very easy. And I feel like in general, ADHD makes forming connections and seeing things in a different way a lot easier.
Okay, so I just learned something. That's one of the things that I love the most about doing a podcast. You probably do too, because you get to really hear other people, and I also have that unique ability to connect ideas or people. Like I'll meet somebody, and then I'll think of someone. Oh, you two need to connect, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I've never heard anyone explain it that way because I do have different interests in different things, and it just sort of weaves together. So I love that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the Curb household growing up. You said you think all of your siblings have it, and
Hmm.
you think both of your parents.
Yeah.
Sorry,
They,
keeping it
uh,
real. Benji's spinning
yes. Yeah. So when I was 6 or 7, my parents got divorced. And so definitely developed with two different households. So I have my direct sibling and then two half siblings, and yet they both my. You're gonna have to move if you're gonna be so needy. uh, my yeah.
Your full
So
sibling.
yeah. So my full sibling definitely has ADHD, and but she didn't get that diagnosis till later in life too. But before I did, and my two half siblings got them at when they were in like elementary school, and
Mhm.
so then also the fact that I was the stereotypical little boy with ADHD, could not sit in my seat, climbing everything. At dinner, I would finish early, and then I would just go spin next to the table. Uh, my mom overcorrected for her ADHD by being a very type A person that was like super organized with everything. And that was just how she had to, like, if she didn't, things fell apart. And so that was
Yeah.
just very strict.
Mhm.
And my dad presented more as like an absent-minded professor kind of guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, it's always funny when you like think about like, was my childhood different? I don't know. That was the one I experienced. I didn't experience any others.
Mhm.
But it did feel like a different household than other households when I like would go and visit friends and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, they just do things, a little bit differently. And uh, I also had a very different experience of I went into boarding school in 6th grade, and
Oh.
so that also vastly changed things for me because that was incredibly structured and like we'd have like 2 to 3 hours of study hall every night, and that definitely helped me get my work done, but not exactly teach me the skills about how I do it because I just thought, oh yeah, you just have to sit until you do it for a long time.
Mm. Right. Wow. Yeah, you can't judge anybody else's, like, I only know this life. I only know this brain. So
Mhm.
it's hard to, I just, because I've been learning, and I think of like my kids and their childhood because
Mm.
I was the mom that, there were no gold stars, because you got your chores done. My kids, I mean, really, like they could move my car in the middle of the night, and I didn't even challenge my own brain to realize that they were sneaking out and taking my car. Like, but I was also the fun mom who was like, yeah, let's have some friends over and, all of a sudden let's make pizza on Sundays. And I could just roll with it. So, it has its blessings and curses for sure. Any other hacks that you want to provide, or anything else you want to say to my audience who's, yours is more general and mine is, really geared towards people coming into this conversation later in life and,
So one of the things that I find is so incredibly important to manage ADHD is coming to it from a sense of acceptance of the ADHD, because it's very easy to fall into that. Like, I hate my ADHD. I hate how that I didn't know earlier. It's like a lot of this. I wish things were different. And I know I've felt those feelings a lot and had to deal with them, but it's never quite been as helpful as just going with, okay, I'm going to deal with this problem and it's going to be hard. Because of my ADHD, it's going to be hard. What can I do with that in mind? How can I make this problem easier with my ADHD in mind? What are the things that I can do that would make my executive dysfunction not be such a hindrance? Doing things with accountability and, working with someone else and making sure things are in my calendar. What are these things that are going to make it so that even though this is hard, it's not going to be impossible? Mm-hmm. And a lot of that just comes from, I have ADHD. I have to accept that I have ADHD, and I have to make my plans with that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the saying, and it's really true. What you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to, have the garbage bags right there. So that it's one less step that I have to do. So anything else you want to share with my audience before we end today's conversation? I don't know about you, but I'll I wish he'd asked me this, or I wish I'd had an opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's just, whenever you're struggling with something with ADHD, it's often comes down to the acceptance piece, and then just going. So there's as we were growing up and we're going, man, I wish I thought this was only me. There's so many times in life where that's also true, where we isolate ourselves and go, I'm struggling because I'm a bad person. Like, I can't keep up. The struggle is just because I can't cope. I'm bad. And that's not how struggles work. Struggles work because you're struggling. Struggles happen because there is a reason for them. As with executive dysfunction, like, oh yeah, I'm struggling to remember to do this because I have bad executive dysfunction. And okay, if I'm struggling, maybe I can look into why I'm struggling rather than just beating myself over the fact that I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. And giving ourselves more compassion, more grace, and like, I'm not a bad person. I've gotten to where I am, and it was a struggle. That's worth celebrating that, hey, I've gotten here already, and I can do more if I understand and give myself grace and try and work with my brain instead of against it.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. I use the word grace all the time because it's really just the best word that I can think of when you want to beat yourself up and just say, like, you know what, this is it. Like, I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got. Okay. So people can find you by finding your podcast, Hacking Your ADHD. And that's also your website.
Also my website, also on YouTube now. And I don't do a lot of the social channels. I am on Blue Sky occasionally, but that's about it right now. I'll try to expand at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes back to I loved. I had Dr. Eliza Barash on my podcast, and it was one of the more popular episodes, and it was titled like "Don't Do Life on Hard Mode."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where can I press the easy button? And you said it. It's like, where can I just simplify? And And I'm also glad that you highlighted your mom's perfectionism and type A personality, because people don't realize, they think that the ADHD is only the messy person who can't get it together, but it's also that woman who's wound, or person who's wound so tight because she's so afraid that it's going to unravel. And that was something I even saw. I saw parts of myself that had perfectionism, and then you could look at my desk and be like, oh, not there. So I understand.
Yeah. Well, it's like for years, I used anxiety as my fuel to get things done and to be on places on time. And that is a lot of constant stress that I don't need in my life. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting everything done, but I feel awful all the time. Maybe I should try and work on figuring out ways to not use anxiety as my primary fuel.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate that you took time out of your busy schedule to come and be on my podcast. Like I said, it was intimidating because you're one of the very respected people out in the space. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Great. Well, if you are listening to this podcast and you enjoyed it, well, you are listening if you're here right now, please like it and subscribe to it and share it with your friends, because one of the things that I'm really trying to do is destigmatize ADHD by spreading awareness that it exists. It doesn't go away just because you turn 50, 60, 70 years old. And when you understand your ADHD and you can find hacks to make your life easier, your life will work better. And it really never is too late to make the rest of your life the best of your life. Thanks so much for being here. The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion.